everyone, Zary here, founder of LandTechJobs.com. I tutor the CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus exams, and I also tutor just anyone in college going to school for IT or computer science or programming, whatever, you name it. So I'm your guy if you need a tutor. Now, I will say that I have seen numerous mistakes whenever tutoring and working with students who are preparing for their certification exams. And I'm going to lay out some of the biggest mistakes that I've seen today and give you some tips that can help you hopefully pass your exam that first time, that first go through. Now, like them or hate them, bad rap or not, CompTIA certifications are they're used by employers to vet candidates to be that first filter, right? So we know that IBM, Cisco, Microsoft, HP, government organizations, some larger hospital systems, they want to see that you have A plus or something, right? They at least want to see you have something. Now, there are some unfortunate aspects of any test. No test maker, no certification provider is perfect. There's not a one-for-one map between whether or not you can get the paper and whether or not you have the skills. But what these certifications will at least do is they'll give you some terminology that will help you understand what people are talking about whenever you walk into a room. And a lot of people, they start with something like the A+. But let's dive into the tips here. So first things first, practice questions are very important. You don't have to take full-length practice test, although I do recommend that, but you want to get a high volume of practice questions, at least over 1,000 practice questions underneath your belt before you go and sit and take the test. That does not have to take long. That can take a couple of weeks. You're probably not going to get the exam or pass a certification in a couple of weeks. It's probably going to take you 2-3 months. It's about how long it took me. But you have to get those practice questions in, however long that takes you. Flashcards are great. Flashcards help. Reading a textbook is great. Reading a textbook helps. Watching Professor Messer videos on YouTube. Here on YouTube, they're great. They're free. They're awesome. Go check them out. The guy's a legend. Anyways, the thing I'm saying this for, the reason I'm saying this is, if you did all of those things, flashcards, Professor Messer videos, read a textbook, and then you went and took the test, you would probably fail. If you had answered no practice questions, you would probably fail. It's very much like this. Imagine that you're a coach and you have a little league football team or a little league baseball team or something, and the way you teach your guys is you just give them a ball and you say, go play ball, boys. Go out, get scars, get bruises, have fun, pick fights with each other, play ball, whatever it is, right? Maybe not pick fights with each other, but in any event, all right, you just have your boys go out and play. And then let's say I'm a coach, and what I do is I just have my team run sprints all summer. Whenever our teams face off, your team's probably gonna beat my team because you actually prepared your team to just play the game. And for us, getting ready for this test, the game is a test. So we need practice tests. We need practice questions at least at a minimum. And I always recommend you want to use a mobile app, ideally maybe like some questions at the back of a textbook or Professor Messer's practice test or some Udemy practice test to get those 1,000 questions in. Exam compasses are great free resource. LandTech Jobs, I've got some free practice questions on there. Just go check out all of those resources and get those practice questions behind your belt. It's very important. Now, the reason this is so important is because usually on the test there will be a keyword or a key context phrase hidden in the question, and if you miss that keyword or key context phrase, you will get the question wrong. You will get it wrong. When you do your practice test and your practice questions, you're going to train yourself to look for those keywords and those key context phrases. And I encourage my students to always do this deliberately. I ask them, when we're looking at a question, hey, what are the key words in this question? What's the key phrase in this question that if we missed it, we would get this question wrong? That is what you want to train yourself to do. We also want to apply another strategy, which is to break these questions down into chunks and essentially practice what I like to call paraphrasing. It's nothing too crazy. This is recommended for things like the SAT and other standardized tests, but the idea is when you read a question, especially if it's 2, 3, 4 sentences long, make absolute sure you break that first sentence away. Make sure you understand it before you read the second sentence. Take that question, look at it on its own, paraphrase it in your own mind, visualize it, internalize it. Ask yourself different things about that second sentence. And then whenever you really understand that second sentence, just like you made sure you really understood that first sentence, then and only then do you move on to the next sentence, the third sentence. And then we do the same thing. We paraphrase the third sentence. We visualize it in our mind. Then we move on to the fourth sentence. We paraphrase it in our mind, reword it in our mind. That's what paraphrasing means. And we make sure we understand the question before we even look at the answer options. I see this time and time again. I'll be working with a student and I make the same mistake. We all do it. Everyone makes the same mistake. I'm not above it. But we'll be looking at a question. We'll jump to an answer, and then we'll ask, hey, what does the first sentence mean? What are they saying there? And when we really think about that first sentence on its own, outside of the rest of the question, oftentimes we'll realize, oh, wait a minute, I did miss something. I did miss a key phrase or a key context clue, or actually I thought they meant this, but now that I'm looking at it again, they really meant this. And so just being careful when you take the test, chunking it down, take it one sentence at a time. Paraphrase each sentence in your own words. Make sure you understand it before you move on to the next sentence in the question. And just really be on the lookout for those keywords or context phrases that if you miss, you'll get the question wrong. So that is big. The other thing that we have to remind ourselves about, because a lot of us are naturally good test takers, or we might get lazy during our practice and not apply this because it's just a practice test, whatever. Who cares if I miss the question? It's just a practice test. I'll submit it and see if I get it right. Or maybe we're far removed from school and it's been a while since we've been in school. But this is what we have to remind ourselves. Process of elimination, you want to eliminate the wrong answer options. And so in order for you to feel confident in your answer, ideally, if there's 4 answer options, you can think of reasons why those first 3 answer options are wrong, the ones that you didn't pick are wrong, and then you also have some supporting evidence or reason to believe that the question you're selecting is correct. It's a basic thing, but process of elimination, guys, try and find reasons why the answers you're not selecting are wrong. Like, really think about it. Make sure there's not a reason why that answer could be right. And if you're not sure, just do the best you can. You're going to have that situation where you're like, I know it's either A or B, but I'm not sure. Go back to the passage, break the question down again, and refollow that process. But sometimes you just might not know. So we'll go to the next question. Now, outside of process elimination, outside of looking for those keywords and phrases, outside of making sure we understand the context of the question, a very common thing that I see is that students will assume into the question. They'll make assumptions about the question. This is not good. This is something that we do without even realizing we're doing it. But the way you can spot this is just by asking yourself, am I treating this question literally? Am I making an assumption? Am I concluding something that is not actually mentioned in the question? A lot of these troubleshooting questions will imply some inference, or like we'll have to deduce something using logic, right? We'll have to infer something. But there's a fine line between picking the next logical step in a troubleshooting scenario and assuming something that is not the case. For instance, if I'm reading a question and they're talking about a computer that is really old, we've got some heat issues with this computer, and one of my options is replace thermal paste for the CPU. Another is to clean the PC, right? And then another option is to replace the water cooling system. Well, there was nothing in that question that mentioned there being a water cooling system. So most computers don't have a water cooling system, so I'm not going to assume that I just need to replace the water cooling system. It's probably something else. Water cooling systems, unless they're leaking, look, the big thing to note here, without us getting bogged down into an example, is don't assume, don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions. Usually the simple answer is, well, not always, but a lot of times the simplest answer is the correct answer, okay? So just remember that. A lot of times the simple answer is the most correct answer. Be careful. Some answer options will insinuate things about the text that just aren't there, that aren't included in the text, right? So don't make assumptions. Make sure that your answer option actually lines up with the question you're being asked, and that it's a very straightforward answer to the question, right? Just be careful with that. Don't make assumptions. Don't read into the question. Don't inject information that's not there. The next thing here that's kind of funny actually is CompTIA will often give you a scenario where the technician is working on something, they've touched something, they've put everything back together, and the system still doesn't work or there's some other issue. Usually, the issue will be what the technician touched. What the technician last put their greasy paws on will be where the issue's at. That's just the case in real life, right? When we go and start tinkering with things, we often cause problems. We make mistakes. Human error enters the picture. And so, for your troubleshooting questions, if there's something that the technician puts his hands on, and then all of a sudden, after we try and fix it, it's still broken, or we've got a somewhat related issue going on, like a new but related issue going on, it's probably related to the last thing that the technician touched, so they put their greasy hands on, right? So that's just something we'll see with CompTIA exams specifically. But across all IT certifications that you might go and get, by far the most important thing is to make sure you're not making assumptions about the question. Don't inject data or information that's not there. And then second, break that question down. Ask yourself, what are the key words here? What are the context clues? What is important about this question? Am I missing anything? Okay, so all of that, it's a lot. I'm getting winded. I know. I'm excited. I'm trying to get through this fast for you guys. The next thing here I would say is when you get to the end of the test, you're done. Okay, you've answered all the questions. Let's assume you filled out everything. Let's say you have 10 minutes left remaining. Do not go back and review your answers. If you go back and review your answers, you're going back and reviewing your answers at a time whenever you have already exerted your attention span for an hour and a half. And we know as human beings, we can only exert our attention span for so long. The longer we have to focus on something, the more mistakes we begin to make. And so whenever you get to the review screen, you are in the worst position that you could possibly be to go back and review your answers. So if everything's answered, you've answered your PBQs, you've answered your multiple choice questions, just go ahead, submit the test, get your certification, go on about your day, choose your next certification or the next journey that's in front of you. I do recommend to everyone, look, skip your PBQs, come back and do those last. But after you've come back and you've done your PBQs and you hit that review screen, just click submit. It's tough, but we don't want to go back. We don't want to second guess ourselves. That's all I have for this video, guys. As always, thank you for supporting the channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Till then, take care.